All right, well, welcome to our presentation on Oregon PERS and your retirement strategy. So we're going to talk about the ins and outs of PERS. Just to give you a little context, we are not PERS representatives. We are actually an independent wealth management firm here to help you plan for your retirement. So the beauty is that our team learns and figures out the ins and outs of PERS so that we can best help you moving forward to plan for your future. So Julia and I are your presenters today. Julia is the founder and CEO of Financial Freedom Wealth Management Group, which is our firm. And she started the company over 20 years ago and has built it to what it is today, and it keeps growing, and we keep helping more and more people, which is amazing. So Julia started the company with a passion for helping people with all things finance related, and that continues today. So she's received many recognitions and awards. I won't go through all of them. You can find them right on the website. But Julia, take it away.
All right. Thank you, Jason. Well, Jason has been with us for 7 years. Is that right? I think we just had a work anniversary. So I met Jason back in 2010, and he was at the time a master financial coach for Dave Ramsey organization, but working not in specifically financial services. So I kind of dripped on him for a few years and said, wouldn't this be a great career? And the rest is history.
She stole me.
Yes. And it's been great. And you also have, Jason has his MBA. He has an amazing family. They live in Corvallis. And we are just honored to have him on our team as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Julia. So here's our agenda. We've got a power-packed informational session for you. So we're going to introduce a little bit more about our company here, and then give you a full overview of the PERS, Oregon PERS system, and then talk about personally you and your retirement strategy. And of course, question and answer at the end. If you do have questions that may make sense as we go, feel free to throw those in the question and answer. We will try to address those as we go if we can, otherwise we'll save it for the end. And I did see someone mention I'm already retired, not sure if this is right for me. We are going to go through a lot of the nuts and bolts of how the system works, so this is more for pre-retirees. But if you do need help, as you're kind of sorting through what does this mean, there are some insights that we can give, and even at the end, we'll talk about some next steps. Okay, so who is Financial Freedom Wealth Management Group? We were founded at the turn of the century, thanks to Julia. So the beauty is that we are an independent wealth management firm. So we don't have a dog in the fight other than helping you, which is great. We provide solutions for individuals, families, businesses, executives, PERS people. So glad to help out with all of that. Now, we are guided by our core values, our team principles. I won't go through all of this in detail, but you can see our core values there. And this really allows us to focus on our commitment, which is to care deeply about our clients and their financial life. So when we do that, which we do at the end of every day, we're thinking about this and our commitment to make sure our clients are well taken care of. So that is really the end result of what we're trying to do. And we have an amazing team of 15 wonderful people that are ready to help you. We have 6 wealth advisors and 9 support staff working behind the scenes just to make sure everyone's taken care of. So it's really a beautiful team. We're so glad to have such great support and help. So our firm, just a little bit more, we do serve clients across the country, so not just Oregon. We have clients in 30 states now, and we have 6 physical locations, which include 5 offices in Oregon and also 1 in Vancouver, Washington. Okay, well, here we go. It's time to talk about this PERS. What is PERS? In fact, what does it even mean? It is the Public Employee Retirement System. That's what PERS stands for. Again, this is an Oregon system. And as you can see, there are almost 200,000 current workers who are covered by PERS. That's quite a few folks. And in fact, when we add in the retirees and then people that used to work for PERS but are not employed right now, that's almost 400,000, which is almost 10% of our state population. So this does cover quite a few, and I would even say our client base, probably more than 10% come from PERS in some way. So we definitely wanted to make sure we cover some of these details to help out our wonderful PERS workers. And as you can see, the majority of those, 41%, come from school districts, and I saw quite a few schools represented here. The other one, we've got the state and then local governments as well. So looks like all of those different folks are represented on this call. So glad to have you here. So let's talk a little bit about the overview. As you know, there are two different pieces to PERS. So the first piece on this slide, we're talking about the pension side. So there's a pension piece, and then there is what's called IAP, which is a different piece of the puzzle. They're two totally separate entities inside of the PERS banner. So sometimes that's a little hard to understand, but think of one as your guaranteed money and then one as like your 401k, if you're familiar with a kind of non-governmental job. Okay, so inside this pension piece, you have three different tiers that you could fall under. And I noticed some of you guys said tier 2 or tier 3, OPSERP, you know, you've got all these down. So yeah, tier 1, you would be in that if you're hired before 96. Then we have that 7-year period where they said, hey, tier 2 is going to be amazing. Let's put folks into that. But apparently it costs the state quite a bit of money. So we came up with, or the state came up with OPSERP. What does that stand for, you might be asking? That is the Oregon Public Service Retirement Plan, also or commonly known as Tier 3. My guess is they did not name it Tier 3 because soon Tier 1 will go away and Tier 2 will go away and we'll be stuck with OPSERP. As you probably know, Tier 1 and Tier 2 are a lot more generous in terms of the pension benefit. But still, OPSERP, you do still get a pension for your work. Most workers now, like 2/3 of workers, are under the OPSERP plan. So that means they were hired after August 28th of 03. Funny thing is though, most of the, or excuse me, 44% of payroll is in Tier 1 and Tier 2. So as you can imagine, there are more you know, senior employees in Tier 1 and Tier 2, and also a lot of times higher pay scales in those tiers. So it still does account for quite a bit of the monetary dollars at work there. Okay, so before we talk about, well, let's talk about eligibility here. So we'll deal with Tier 1 and 2 first, and then OPSERP next. So this shows the top half of here shows when you're eligible for full benefits. And then the bottom half shows the earliest you could take it, which would be called reduced benefits. And so let's just take an example. So anyone Tier 1 or Tier 2, as long as you put in 30 years of service, you are eligible for full benefits. And then let's say you're Tier 2. I saw someone's a Tier 2 on here. Full benefits start at age 60. So if you turn 60 and you don't have 30 years, you're still eligible for full benefits. Now for Tier 2, you could get reduced benefits as early as age 55. So that is that's essentially how it works. And you can kind of see where you fit. If you're with police or fire, then you can retire a little bit earlier, which is nice. Okay, let's look at OPSERP for eligibility. Little bit higher. So you have to wait until you're 65 to be full retirement, to get the full benefits, unless you're 58 and done 30 years of service. Reduced benefits can start at 55. Now you do have to have been in the PERS system for 5 years and done 600 hours for all of those years to be able to get those reduced benefits as early as 55. So that's eligibility. Julia, back to you to talk about some of the details.
Yeah, really good. So we won't have a quiz at the end to remember all these details, but I think what would make sense is if you're writing it down the notes as it pertains to you, that's how I would be taking notes in there. Okay, so let's understand and break down the tier 1 and tier 2 PERS accounts here. So in tier 1 and tier 2, the salary contributions before 2004 were going into your regular or potentially variable account. And then that is where you get a statement every March or April that shows there's 2 balances on that statement. There's the members balance in the kind of the middle, and then down at the bottom typically is where you see the IAP. So then your employer is making contributions kind of behind the scenes. It's not showing up on that statement. And the employer reserves. So you're seeing you're added the benefit that you see plus the behind the scenes that then equals together to determine your retirement pension benefits. And then beside that is the salary contributions post 2004. So this is, or was around 6% that was going into IAP. And that is showing up as a value on the bottom of your annual statement. So that's how we understand the PERS 1 and PERS 2. So there is several factors that go into play to determine what your income will be if you are, this is specific to a tier 1 or tier 2. So that would be your age, your average salary, the service time that you have, and your account balance. And then PERS has 2 different ways that they calculate the pension. So under the full formula, you would take your service time, your final average salary, and then the factor is 0.0167, and we'll have an example below. And then under the money match, it's simply looking at life expectancy, and it's really that account balance that shows up on your annual statement that shows member balance. It's essentially that times 2. So those are the 2 different methods that they do in determining your benefit. So on the full formula, if your average salary was $45,000, $46,000, $48,000 the last 3 years of service, that would be an average monthly salary of $3,861. And then if you had 30 years of service, you can follow the math to show then that your monthly benefit would be $1,934.
Well, to interrupt a little bit, Julia, the beauty is you do not have to calculate this on your own. So we'll talk later that there are calculators already on the PERS website, and it calculates all these different methods.
But if you want to check the math, that's how
that's right. You want to know how it works.
Yes. Okay, and then if you are part of OPSERP, is that the right OPSERP? So it's that 3rd tier. essentially you wouldn't have that, the salary contributions pre-2004, all of that. You actually don't see a member balance on your statement. So that's not showing up. And that pension plan is kind of working behind the scenes, and you're not seeing the real value of that each year. And then of course you still have though the IAP happening, and that's where on your annual statement, you'll see the value of your IAP account. And then how they determine the OPSER pension is by your time of service. And it's the average of the highest 3 consecutive years. And most likely that may be your final 36 months of employment. And then the calculation is the time minus the time times the final average salary times 0.015. So you can see the benefit, how that benefit is calculated over this time.
And someone asked a question here, does PERS factor in comp time sick leave that you have on the books? No, it really is based off of your salary and time of service, and then the factor that they use. Comp and sick leave will be separate from that.
Okay. And I also see where the slides, we are going to go through this because there's a lot of content here, but we will have a recording of this available. And then there's also some really good resources we can email out that has this specific information in it as well. So yes, you will have access to this material.
Mm-hmm. And okay, let's talk about the IAP account. So this is a separate account once again, and 6% of your salary is being deferred into this IAP account. And I'll dive into a little bit more of that. Again, it's not part of your pension calculation, but when you do leave, the PERS system altogether, retire or totally done with it, you are required at retirement to take the distribution of this IAP, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. You have 4 months to figure out what you want to do with that. So the beauty of the IAP is that you can designate a beneficiary. So if you have not done that yet, make sure you do have a beneficiary on there. It's like a 401k that's set up for PERS. So make sure you name your beneficiary. Okay, so let's look at these distribution options here. So you can, next slide here.
Oops, sorry.
That's okay. There we go. So there's basically those top 3 are your choices. So you have 3 main options for taking the money out in retirement. You can take a lump sum, which they're going to send you a check. It's going to be taxable. Usually not a good idea if you have a lot of money in there. So consider the other options as well. The second one would be a lump sum rollover. So the check will be sent to you, but made out to where you want it to go. So if you're working with us, it's usually LPL Financial, and that's a non-taxable event, which is nice. It's just moving the money from IAP into your own account, essentially. The third option there is that you can take an installment over 5 years, 10 years, 15, or 20. And the new option is over your lifespan. So you can, based off of your estimated lifespan, you'll receive installments that way. And you can choose how you get those. So the one thing is, once you choose this, you are locked in unless you end up taking the rest of it out. So be careful with what option you're choosing. Work with a wealth advising team like ours to make sure you're set up for success even with this IAP distribution option.
Yeah, we did have a couple questions. I think we should go back and address them because it may get lost. I just want to make sure people keep tracking. So the question I think was on this page, and and the question is it final average monthly salary then? So in OPSERP, and make sure you can confirm that I'm answering the right scenario here, but we're assuming it, because the question came up when we were on this slide under OPSERV. So they will look at your highest 3 years within your service. And so usually it's the last 3 years, but it's not always. So it's the final average monthly salary is usually what they use as the average factor, but it may not be depending on your earning history. So let me know if that answers your question. Another question that's coming up is if you retire from PERS, and then what if you continue to work part-time after you officially retire in the program? So the way that I understand it is that you can work 1,030 hours. Is that right, Jason?
That sounds right. We need to verify it, but yeah.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure that you can work after you retire in the PERS system. You could work 1,030 hours, still collect your benefits, and then still get your income, but you're not going to accumulate more retirement benefits, is the way that I understand it, because you're collecting those already.
Right. But yeah, and you still will be paying into the PERS system, so you'll be helping other retirees by staying inside of PERS.
Yes.
Which is why they've started to allow that now.
Okay. And another, so I think that answers all those questions. Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Right. Yeah,
those.
It's okay. So let's look a little bit more at the IAP investments. There's been a change recently, right, Jason?
Yes. So IAP used to be a pooled investment, so you didn't have investment choice at all. It was like, here's how we're investing it, and this is what you get. For some, that was really aggressive because they were needing the money soon. For some, it was really conservative. So it was not the best setup. But now we have, or you have, the target date options available. So what target date means is that it's that year. So let's take, for example, 2035. That's the year in which you are likely to retire. And so it is preset based off of your birth year. So if you were born in 1968, you're 52, 15 more years, you'll be 67. So they've preset you to be in target date 2035. Now, new this year, you can actually change that each year for the next year. So you have the month of September. So we've passed that month. So we're talking about 2022 planning.
Put a task on your calendar.
That's right. So the month of September, there's a window where you can go in and say, okay, I want to be a little bit more aggressive or a little bit more conservative because I think I may need these funds sooner or later in my IAP account. And you can change that. So if you're in 2035 and you want to say, hey, I might work later, I want to be more aggressive, or I have other assets that I'm utilizing in conjunction with this, you can either raise or lower your actual target date. And then that will take effect. So if you do this September of 2021, that'll take effect for the whole year of 2022, and you can change that year by year.
And we can help, if you're a client of ours, we can help decide if that's appropriate, like if you should be taking action there. We're happy to do that. So just feel free to reach out to us.
Absolutely. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about this IAP account. So most people have IAP picked up or paid by their employer, about 60%. So the other 40, you basically have an increased salary, but then that 6% increase is going to your IAP account. So that's kind of how it works. And everyone who has been employed since 2004 has the IAP account, as Julia mentioned before. And again, just a reminder, this is separate from your pension money. Now, what happened July 1st of this year? no longer is the 6% fully going into your IAP, even though it's coming out. PERS had to make some changes to become more solvent for the years ahead. So Senate Bill 1049 set up an Employee Pension Stability Account, EPSA. So if you earn more than $2,500 a month from your PERS, or from your employer, then this little split of the stability account happens for you, and it's based on your tier. So if you're tier 1 or 2, it's 2.5% of that 6% that's going to the stability account. If you're tier 3 or OPSERP, 0.75% is funneled off.
So it's,
go ahead.
So essentially, that money is going to help the system stay solvent. Is that the way I understand it? Yeah.
Yeah. So that way you can get your actual pension later.
Which is important.
Yes. The downside is it's not really going to your IAP account. The good news is it's not the full 6% that's being taken away. It's a portion of that. And then how does this affect you long term? On this next slide, it's estimated that it will decrease your benefit by between 7 and 12.5% based on your tier. Tier 2 is the most affected in this change for your IAP account. So it's always a good reminder, even though we see these guarantees with PERS, the laws can change, right? And so you want PERS to be a piece of your retirement planning, not the whole thing. Just like Social Security, you don't want that to be all of what you do. You want to make sure you've set things up to be taken care of no matter what happens. Okay, so let's talk real quick about some of the problems with PERS here. PERS has an unfunded liability. You see, I've crossed out the old number. It's now $26.6 billion of unfunded liability. And what that means is based on actuarial numbers of when longevity and all that sort of thing, they're short by over $26 billion. And so these are some of the measures that have been put in place to kind of help shore this up. If you look back at the history of PERS, there's been an underestimating of how long people will live, and then an overestimating of how much return would happen inside these PERS accounts. And so there's been other add-on features that have happened. There was the guaranteed rate of return, which still exists on tier 1 only. The guarantee was 8% return on your account. PERS has found a way to drop that down. We're at 7.2% now, which is the floor. So your minimum return on your tier 1 is 7.2%, which is great. If you can get that guaranteed somewhere, you would take it. So it's great, but it overpromised, and now we've got to kind of fix these things, and that's what PERS is trying to do. The other big trouble was with the money match. As Julia mentioned, that's doubling what you have in that account, basically matching what has been in there, including the gain on the account over those years. So a third of people are still getting higher pensions with this money match program inside tier 1 and tier 2. So great benefit to you as you're entering that retirement time, but still it's got to be solvent, which is why there's the other pieces that are at play. Julia, back to you.
Yeah, and so this is really hard to read this chart. We acknowledge that, but it's just see the trends here. So Oregon is all the way on the left, the little red smallest bar, and these are the line around where it says U.S. average is where the average is for the nation. And what this is really showing is that the employees on average here contribute a lot more to their pension than Oregon. So Oregon historically has not required the employees to contribute to their pension. So where it is the standard across the United States that yes, the employees are contributing to it. So it may feel like a shock to our system within our PERS, especially for our people, our essential workers out there. But it is, when you look at the perspective of this, it is normal that this happens.
Yeah, and a couple questions here, Julia. Do the calculations use any sort of indexing of wages? No, but you do have a cost of living adjustment each year inside your pension. So again, it's not going to pace actual inflation for you. It'll be kind of like Social Security that does have some sort of an adjustment, but it won't be much, or I should say, it hasn't been much recently.
Yeah, is that I work 9 months each year? Is the 2,000 amount calculated as an average monthly salary, or is it month by month? I think it's the average monthly salary. Would you guess that?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. Let's see if you're currently earning more than $2,500 a month. Yeah, I'd have to look at how the bill was actually written. My guess would be it's based off of your actual, what you get during those months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's our guess. Best guess. That's a very detailed question.
Yes, but if you do want our help digging through some of that stuff, we'd be glad to.
We gotta go to the fine print for that. I've got a binder right down here.
That's right. Okay, is there an age that you have to take out your IEP if you keep working? So if you keep working within the PERS system, so if you're staying inside of PERS, you cannot take your IEP until you're fully retired. You have no access to it other than to make that little change about how aggressive or conservative it is. You keep it in there until retirement, and then you've got that 4-month window to make a decision of how you want to take it out.
Yeah. And I think another question we got was, so we never get it back. And I'm assuming that's with the new percentage that's going into taken from your IAP contribution and going into this new one. That's correct. It's kind of it's your contribution to the pension side of your retirement. So good questions.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's transition to talking a little bit more specifically around preparing for retirement.
Yes, so Julie also mentioned the statement. That's an example on the right-hand side of the printed statement. As you can see, that top piece is your pension. So on this one, it says Tier 1 pension. If you're Tier 2, it'll show that. You'll see a regular account, a variable account. Those are different ways you can have the money invested. If you're Tier 3 or OPSERP, you will not see numbers on there. It's going to show you the calculation of how do you figure out what your pension will be, because it's just a pension. There's no dollars tied to it. And then that second half says IAP. So that will be, think of that as more of like your 401k. So that will show the balance. The statement comes out each year around May. And of course, you can look now online more frequently, and it's all updated there. Okay, we're talking about the online benefit estimate. You can do that. Just go to oregon.gov/PERS, and you can do the member login and get as many online estimates as you want. You can run different scenarios. What if I retire in 10 years? What if I retire in 5? You can play with all that and just see what it spits out. For an official benefit estimate, you have to be within 2 years of retirement. So once you're at that point, you can request an official one. They will mail it to you. It'll have all the numbers of what's what and your different choices, which we're going to go through in a minute here. The other thing that you may have a decision on is whether you have a no purchase or purchase. So if you, sometimes they'll give an option to pay a certain amount of money to get a little bit higher monthly benefit. So we can also in our office help you compare which is going to be better for you long term. So that's a part of it. And of course the retirement packet. So you get a ton of information that's really complicated, and there's forms, multiple forms, and we need to have this for this piece and this if you're doing that. So it's complicated, but guess what? Our team takes care of all of that paperwork. So if you're working with us or would like to or learn more, we will help you walk through every piece of paperwork, make sure it's filled out correctly, and actually be a go-between with you and PERS, able to call them and connect with them for you. So that just kind of gives you a little bit of an overview of how to start getting ready. Julie, do you want to talk about the different options they have?
Yes, and first I'll point out the very asterisk on the bottom. You can only change your option selection within 30 days of receiving, sorry, 60 days. 60, I was looking at the 60, I came out 30. So 60 days after the date of your first benefit payment. So it's critical when you're looking at all of these options, you can see them all on the page here. It's easy to get overwhelmed. So that's why we really want you to seek professional guidance and just really understand the choices that you're making. So here are the options. This is for tier 1 and tier 2 only. So the option 1 is always going to be the highest monthly benefit, and it only covers your life. So, you know, and I actually had a client, boy, this was probably 15 years ago. They were on vacation. For their retirement, like celebrating retirement, and he died on that vacation. So in that scenario, if he had chosen option 1, his wife or partner would not get anything. So it's really important how impactful these decisions would be. A refund annuity is meaning that your member balance, so again, the balance that's showing up on tier 1, tier 2, the top of the page, that member balance, would be guaranteed to pay out to your beneficiaries if you died while there was still remaining amount. Okay, so typically, what is it, Jason? Like 10 years, maybe, is what I have seen.
Yeah, it's around there. Yeah.
That it takes, 10 years beyond your retirement date to use up all of those, your member balance. So the refund annuity would come into play there. A 15-year certain just means that PERS will guarantee to make the payments 15 years or your death, whichever is longer. Okay, so if you die in year 7, they will continue to make those payments for another 8 years to whoever you list as a beneficiary. So option 2 is really important for spouses and couples. And so the option 2s are saying that you have a beneficiary, so you're typically your spouse, and they will continue to get benefits, 100% of what you were getting, if they outlive you. And then option 2A is if your beneficiary dies before you, then you can go and make a change to a new beneficiary. So that's how that works. And then option 3 is your beneficiary would get 50% of the amount that you're getting if you were to die. So if you're getting $2,000 a month and you died under 3, your partner would get $1,000 a month until they died. And then 3A is similar to 2A, but the benefit is 50%. And then there's these options where you can actually have those options above, but then it's only on the employer portion of your PERS balance. And then you could actually choose to take your members' balance and roll that over into an IRA. So essentially, if you looked at your, if you looked at the amounts, it should be half of all of the options above, if that makes sense. So again, and then the last one before I kind of recap everything is just a total lump sum. You can say, you know, I'm worried about the solvency of PERS. Like, I just want to take my money and I want to be in charge of my own retirement. And so they will allow you to do what's called a lump sum option. And then you most likely would roll that into an IRA. And then you would set up a distribution stream from that IRA that was perfectly uniquely designed for you in your situation. So in all of these, there's a lot of options here, as you can see, but it's really important that there's not one right answer. And that's the hard part about this, is you really have to sit down and kind of work through your full financial picture. So not just PERS, but all the other things you have going on, Social Security, if you have a partner that works somewhere, like looking at that holistically is critical in knowing what the right option is. Okay, and then, so what I just covered was tier 1, tier 2. So now we're gonna talk about OPSERP options. So they've simplified it a little bit here. So, that was a lot. So they have the single life, which again just covers your life. Then they have full survivorship. And then they have the full survivorship with the ability to change the beneficiary if the spouse died first. And then they have those options at 50%. All right, so under, if you do not meet eligibility requirements to retire from OPSERP, like you haven't been there long enough, but are inactive and vested, you can withdraw your account if the actuarial equivalent of your benefit under the program is $5,000 or less. They'll actually most likely send you a letter stating that. Okay, so for tier 1 and tier 2, all options except the total lump sum guarantees the PERS member a lifetime income. So the big $1 million question is which one to do. But then if something happens to you, how do you want to provide for your beneficiaries? That's really like, what legacy, what do they need? And those are all the things that we can help you decide. This is another interesting, some notes to consider. Loss of benefits, if you died after separation from PERS, but you weren't officially retired yet. So if you died in that window, then you would lose the PERS side of it, the employer PERS side of the benefits. So your spouse would not get that side of things. You also, if you rolled that money out of PERS, before, not a lump sum option, but you took it out, separated from service, but not retired, you would lose the benefit of that match as well. The pension option selection becomes irrevocable after 60 days from the first check. We talked about that. And if you retire by July 1st, you will still receive the maximum annual cost of living raise, or they call that COLA, for that year. And that cost of living adjustment is between 1.25 and 2%. It depends on inflation. And that's simply, so every year you'll get a little bump in retirement, which is nice that a lot of pensions don't have this option. So this is a good option that PERS does have.
Great. Well, let's talk about a few more things to consider as you're looking at retirement planning. Age and longevity is huge. People are living a lot longer these days, so you want to make sure you do have the income to uh, cover those years. And then age, when do you want to retire? Do you want to retire early? Do you want to retire, 55, 65, later? What does that look like for you? Other considerations would be non-financial transitions. So there could be some, you know, hobbies you want to do, or, is someone going to keep working? If you have a spouse or partner, is someone going to keep working? What lifestyle things are important to you? Those can be non-financial type of things. I know we have a lot of clients that say, hey, I want to visit my kids or grandkids, and now they're spread all over the country. So it's something to consider. Immediate cash needs. Sometimes there are certain things as you enter retirement that you may need to get, like maybe your car is kind of on its last leg, or maybe there's a boat or a house that you've always wanted to get. Those are things that you'll want to make sure are taken care of. And the big one here is the income needs with inflation protection. So as Julia was mentioning, there is the cost of living. However, inflation in retirement tends to be a lot higher than when you're not in retirement, because the things that you're purchasing happen to inflate much quicker. You're not buying like technology stuff as much, which doesn't inflate as much, but like healthcare, medical care, that's usually a lot higher. Even just basic groceries and those sorts of things can be higher. So you want to make sure you've got the inflation protections built in, not only for providing for your basic needs, but other things that you'd like to do in retirement, because your income kind of shifts from being working to get that money to now I've built this and it's coming to me in a little bit more systematic way. So cash flow is important there. For here, we have covered the distribution options. This covers a little bit more just in general when you're looking at maybe other plans and those sorts of things. Inside PERS, you guys already know those options we've gone through. But there are cases where outside of PERS, you can leave money in an employer's plan. Obviously with PERS, you've got that pension annuity option. You can usually cash out your money from most things. Again, be careful, because you've got a 20% mandatory tax that you're hit with if you just take the money and go. Rolling over to an IRA gives you a little bit more flexibility there, or if you move to a new employer. Okay, so should you take the lump sum? It's kind of been the question of the last few minutes here. This slide would seem to indicate yes. However, it's not meant to be misleading. It just gives you the different factors to consider. There are some times, especially there are certain clients, especially in the PERS program, where when we look at the pension compared to the lump sum, it makes a lot more sense to take the pension. So you really do have to look at your own figures, either the official estimate or some of the calculations you've done on there to see what makes the most sense. And as you know, with PERS, as Julia was saying, you do have the options sometimes of splitting that if you're tier 1 or tier 2 to take some of both. But yeah, some of the things we've already discussed. Inflation hedge is important. A lump sum can provide an emergency cash reserve for you, so that, because once you get the pension, it's just those dollars coming in, period. You've got the IAP, which is helpful, but you are stuck with that monthly amount plus the little cost of living. And yeah, the only other thing from there was, money for survivors too. So again, once you choose an annuity option, it is stuck for even if you do the 15 years, it is gone after that if you don't outlive it. So with all that, just make sure to talk to your wealth advisor to make sure you're set up to take it the way that would be best for your situation. And with this, we've already kind of discussed some of this, so I won't go into too much more detail. But when you're doing any rollover money, and we'll help you with the paperwork, you want to make sure it is written to the custodian who it's going to. Again, with PERS, the check gets sent to you, but then you just send it over to whoever's managing those funds for you. But the paperwork is the most important part, because if you get that wrong, you have to go back through it, or it gets rejected and you just get hung up on the phone. So just make sure your paperwork's done well there.
Yeah, there was a question that came through that asked, if you rolled it over into an IRA, will it be taxed on the rollover? So that's what we're saying here. It would not be. Yes, but that it's critical that the paperwork is clearly showing that that's your intention, so that they will not withhold taxes. Because there's a lump sum payout and a lump sum rollover. So you want to make sure that you're doing the lump sum rollover into an IRA.
Right.
So, yeah, good question.
Yeah, you don't want more paperwork to try to reverse, a mistake like that.
Yes.
Yeah, good question.
Okay, so let's finish up here just to talk about a little bit more about our process. So today we've talked about, we've had an educational encounter, and if you want us to help you kind of think through some of the decisions that you have, kind of the next step is what we do is called a comprehensive discovery. So it's really understanding not only your PERS situation, but your full financial situation. And then we can come back to you with a tailored solution that's unique to you. That's the important part. Just because your neighbor did it this way doesn't mean that's right for you. And both could be right. That's the thing, that there's not one right decision. And then also we are with you. Once you make those decisions, we can guide you along the way. So in retirement, there's a lot of things that come up that change year to year. So we're here beside you on that guided journey. All right, so this is what you'll want to collect and bring together, or looking at all of your income sources in retirement. So again, not just the PERS, but your other, if you have a 403B, Oregon Savings Growth Plan, other annuities, your Social Security benefits, maybe you have rental income. Those all are the things that we look at for retirement income planning. And then also the expenses are what Jason referred to, not just your basic expenses that you always have, but discretionary, your wishes, your dreams, like you worked really hard and now you want this retirement. Once we can travel again, maybe travel, all of that. So we look at health insurance, like these are all expenses that you have to think through, not only plan for what they are today, but what will they be 20, 30 years from now with the cost of inflation built in. So we can help you look at that. We can take all of this and then we can, we have planning software that we can really look and design a plan and tell you, yes, you can retire, or maybe you need to do a couple things first and put a goal out there for you. So if you go to financialfreedomwmg.com/ maybe we can put that link in the chat.
Yeah, I'll do that.
To everyone. That will give you a worksheet. That's just a tool that you can use to start thinking about, this information. It's just a resource for you there. And then lastly, if you're interested, so whether you're a client currently or not, either way, and you are interested in working with a wealth advisor here to sit down and do all of these crunching numbers and looking at your options, if you text the word FUN to 33777, that will indicate to us that you're interested in more information. So it could be just you want to get added to our newsletter, or it could be to schedule that complimentary consultation with one of our advisors. Or if you're a client, it could mean, hey, I'm ready to really look at this more serious, and I'm ready for that consultation. And we will then reach out to you and get you booked for that. Okay, so I'm going to come back to this slide so you guys all have it, and then we'll open it up here. I got to do a couple more slides, and then we'll open up for more Q&A. So we are aligned and partnered with LPL Financial. They are our broker dealer. You can see some of their information on this slide. It's also on our website as well. We've been with them since 2009. So it's been their great partner to work with. And then lastly, here are some wonderful disclosures that you can have a chance to read as well. And then I think what we'll do, I know we have some questions, but if you have questions, we'll stay on here. But I'll kind of end with this slide here. So you'll have that in front of you. And thank you for attending, investing your time today. We're happy to provide a resource like this to you. And if you have any other topics, we would love to incorporate those into our webinar schedule as well. So Jason, let's go into some Q&As here.
Yeah, first from Paul. Yeah, even if you're not quite ready to retire, we'd be glad to go over your situation. Even if you met with us a couple years back, it really doesn't matter. We're here to help you, and so that's what we do every day. So yeah, go ahead and text FUN or you've got our email and everything there. Be glad to review your situation. Michelle, for Washington PERS, we do have quite a number of Washington clients, and we do know the PERS system there. So we don't have this exact presentation, but we can certainly help you. We know the ins and outs and can get you what you need.
Another question we got, are you holding in-person meetings for one-on-one sessions in your Vancouver location currently?
We are still doing video and phone appointments only right now. As COVID clears, you know, you got to get that COVID stuff out of here so we can meet in person again. We miss it. But yeah, we're doing it by phone and or video. Video has been really helpful for folks. But yeah, as soon as we're able to, we will be able to meet clients in Vancouver, but we want to make sure everyone's protected. We don't want any concerns. We don't want financial freedom in the news as COVID outbreak clients hit, you know.
We have been able, I would say this, we have been able to facilitate paperwork or a notary, you know, those kind of things. Like if it's necessary to do the business and help you, you know, there are times that we've been able to do that.
Yes, and actually the PERS paperwork would be one because you usually need a notary and all that stuff and physical signatures. So yes, we do and can help with that.
Yeah, and here we will be sending a replay, so those slides will be part of that. That does have to go through our lovely compliance system, and then we will get those the replay out to you. So expect that in probably 2 to 3 days. Let's see, did we? Oh goodness, here's a.
I answered that one.
Oh, you answered that one. Okay, good.
Looks like that's it.
Okay, maybe one.
Another one.
Do you see it?
Yes. Do you work with Voya in managing retirement 457B?
So I know that we are an approved vendor for Lincoln County School District. So that is for their 403B option, but we would, do you know the answer to that specifically?
This is 457. Could be dealing with Oregon Savings Growth Plan, which I believe is now under, deferred comp. Yeah, so until you retire, we can't manage that, but we can help you look through what it is and how to complement it with your overall retirement plan. We can definitely do that.
Okay, good questions. Thank you, everyone. I think that's it.
Yeah, looks like it. Have a wonderful afternoon.
All right. Thanks, Jason. See you later.
Bye.
I can't get my mouse over there. That's so funny. My mouse is not working. All right, and show. There we are.
There you go. Then you're going to close it out.
I'm trying. My mouse. I got 3 screens. Okay, here we go. Got it. A little blooper moment at the end.
Perfect.